So a week ago, week or two, something like that, I was having a conversation on a panel. I was going back and forth with a bunch of never Trumpers, right? I was going back and forth with a bunch of people that can't stand Donald Trump, and they have absolutely no problem expressing to everyone that they can't stand Donald Trump, right? And so they kept saying that he was a criminal. And I'm like, criminal? And so I ran down the list of the court cases that Donald Trump had and pointed out how they were frivolous, without merit, a couple of them without jurisdiction. It's BS. It's lawfare, right? This is what I explained to them, but they just kept telling me that I didn't know what I was talking about. You don't know what you're talking about, angry man. He's a criminal. He did this and he did that, right? So there's one young lady by the name of Callie Bev. She says, well, Trump sent fake electors. And the moment she said it, I was like, sent fake electors? I never heard that story. Like when they were prosecuting Trump, I never heard that story. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear a story about Trump allegedly sending fake electors in the 2020 election? Did y'all hear anything about that? I don't remember hearing anything about that. Did y'all hear anything? Now, I found this to be really weird because y'all know I've been covering the whole situation. And I'm like, if there was an instance where he was accused of sending fake electors, I think I would know something about that. So as I'm having this discussion with them, I'm telling them, like, I didn't hear nothing about that, right? And so she goes on to tell me that Jack Smith is bringing a case against Donald Trump. The two cases he's bringing against Donald Trump is the documents case, which to that I said to them that a president can declassify any documents, and he can declassify those documents in any way he sees fit. Okay, which basically means, if you really want to be honest, it means that the moment documents are in a president's hand that are classified, he can't get in trouble for having classified documents. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion that has already been debunked. We literally have court cases on the books that have set a precedence that a president is allowed to have classified documents because he can declassify any document. So that was already out of the way. So the other case that he allegedly had was, Trump sent fake electors. And I said, well, I've never heard of that. I said, I'm going to have to go do my research on that, right? Which I did. But the irony of it is this conversation was being had, I want to say right before the election. If it wasn't before the election, it was right after the election. And the irony of it is, by the time I decided to go over and do my research and see what was going on with the Jack Smith case, they was already talking about dropping it. So in my mind, I'm like, well, the case couldn't have that much merit if they're talking about dropping it. If they're on the news talking about, the policy of the DOJ is not to prosecute a sitting president, right? Or a president that is about to be inaugurated, right? So I'm like, well, I mean, the law is the law, right? So if he did something incorrect and you have him dead to rights, you have proof, why would you drop the case? That doesn't make any sense to me, right? So a few days later, he actually resigns out of fear that when Donald Trump gets inaugurated, he will fire him, right? So I saw a video, a live stream with Judge Joe Brown. I think he was on the Real Dana's live stream. And he was basically saying that Jack Smith has no standing. In other words, he has no authority to bring those cases. And I said, oh, that's interesting, because I didn't really know that much about Jack Smith. And now I know why I don't know that much about Jack Smith. Let me show you this video. And this video is from June 4th of this year. So this was earlier this year. This isn't even around the election. This is way before I even had this debate with Callie Bev and John Henry about the illegal electors, right? So watch this.
Without objection. The question presented is whether private citizen Jack Smith lacks authority to represent the United States. I also ask unanimous consent to submit for the record an article titled, "Was it legal to appoint Jack Smith in the first place?" This is a Heritage publication. Without objection. I want to start by reading you the appointment clause of the Constitution. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 6 states, "The President shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law." Are U.S. attorneys nominated by the President and confirmed by the Senate according to this appointments clause?
They are appointed by the President, confirmed by the Senate.
Wouldn't you agree that U.S. attorneys
Listen to the shakiness in Merrick Garland's voice.
are held to the appointments clause because they are delegated some part of the sovereign power of the United States, such as the ability to make indictments and charge individuals with crimes?
I would say that those are not the reasons why, and a court has already ruled on the question of whether special counsels are subject to the appointments clause in the Mueller case, and ruled that they were not.
Was Jack Smith nominated by President Biden or confirmed by the U.S. Senate?
Look, you're asking me about a case, again, motions filed.
This is a simple question.
No, I'm not.
Was Jack Smith nominated by President Biden?
No, he was not.
Was he confirmed by the Senate?
No, he was not.
When was the special counsel
So let's pause right there. Let's pause right there. And I hope you're watching this, Callie Bev. Did you and John Henry see this is, I don't like when people play with me. And I don't like when people play in my face. Did you present an argument for Trump being a criminal based on Jack Smith, a private citizen who was not appointed as a special counsel by Joe Biden and was not confirmed by Congress to do anything? Did you really try to substantiate your argument that Donald Trump was a criminal because a private citizen, Jack Smith, who was appointed by Merrick Garland, who did not have the authority to appoint him, was bringing a case or two cases against Donald Trump, a former sitting president? So here we have yet again another unconstitutional bit of lawfare that you're using as the foundation of your argument for Trump being a criminal. You cannot make this up. The reality is, in that instance, Trump isn't the criminal, John Smith is. Based on the Constitution, he had absolutely no authority to bring any charges against Donald Trump. But yet he did. Why? Because we have a Department of Justice that is running amok. Bull City said, wait, the AG that was asking questions was the one that appointed? Yes! Merrick Garland appointed Jack Smith. Joe Biden is supposed to do that. And after he appoints him, like right now as we speak, right? Right now as we speak, you have all of these mainstream media talking heads talking trash about Donald Trump's appointments. They're on CNN, MSNBC talking about Donald Trump is trying to appoint Matt Gaetz, and he's trying to appoint Tulsi Gabbard, and he's trying to appoint. And then right after they say that, they say, well, they still have to be confirmed by Congress. So, if the left understands that it doesn't matter who Donald Trump appoints, they still have to be confirmed by Congress, why was Jack Smith allowed to be special counsel and pursue charges against Donald Trump, a former sitting president, if A, he was not appointed by Joe Biden, and B, he was not confirmed by Congress? This is why I'm getting to the point where I'm not even going to have arguments with Negroes, because they don't know what they're talking about. Now I understand why I don't know about Jack Smith, because his ass wasn't supposed to be. The reason why I don't know anything about Jack Smith is because if President Biden appointed him and Congress confirmed him, it would have made the damn news.
Statute passed.
There is no special counsel statute. There was an independent counsel statute that was expired.
So it expired. So what gives you the authority to appoint a special counsel? You've created an office in the U.S. government that does not exist without authorization from Congress.
There are regulations under which the Attorney General appoints special counsel. They've been in effect.
And this prick almost this jack off almost became a freaking Supreme Court justice. That's how scary this is.
For 30 years, maybe longer, under both parties. The matter that you're talking about whether somebody can have an employee of the Justice Department serve as special counsel has been adjudicated.
You appealed. Let me interrupt for a second, because you appealed to a regulation, a rule, whereas the Constitution says shall be established by law.
Yeah, the statutes.
Right, the statute. But you referred to a regulation, not to U.S. code.
Now, come on, Attorney General Merrick Garland. Come on. You know what the Supremacy Clause is. A statute or a regulation does not override the U.S. Constitution. I'm not even a lawyer, and I know that. I'm not even a congressman, and I know that. I'm not a senator, a mayor, a governor, none of that. And even I know that. This is the reason why the Democrats, every time you go to the Supreme Court, you get your behind whooped. Because you're running around here doing, oh my God, you're running around here doing unconstitutional things, and you've been allowed to run amok because Biden's administration has just been looking the other way. Or they're complicit in it. One of the two.
May I answer? The regulation cites the two U.S. Code provisions that permit the Attorney General's appointment. Attorney General Barr cited to the same ones.
Are you familiar?
Even Attorney General Meese did that.
All right. Are you familiar with former Attorney General Meese's amicus brief?
No.
You're not?
I know that he's filed one because I read it in the newspapers, but otherwise I'm not familiar with it. But
well, he raises some good questions that I agree with in there. It seems like you've created an office that would require an act of Congress, yet there's not an act of Congress that authorizes that. And even if it didn't require an act of Congress, and you've already admitted it, there was no act of Congress that established this office, it would still require, according to the Constitution, a nomination by the president and confirmation by the Senate. I want to move on to January 6th. Is it accurate to say that the DOJ is on pace to arrest roughly one protester a day in 2024, nearly 3 years after the incident?
I don't know what the pace is. His job is to arrest and bring to justice people who are criminally responsible, and as they are found, they will be arrested.
Is your office preparing to drop charges against more than 340 January 6thers charged with 1512C2 and release dozens from prison on that count if the Supreme Court this month reverses how your department has used that statute against them?
We respect the Supreme Court. Whatever the court rules, we will act appropriately.
So you'll have to drop the charges if the Supreme Court says that you did that wrongfully.
I'm not going to answer hypotheticals. We'll wait and see what the Supreme Court says.
What do you say in response to D.C. Appellate Court overturning 2 excessive sentencing requests sought by your office?
I say that is a United States system of justice working. If people think that they have inappropriate sentences, they can appeal their sentences. That's the way our system works, and we respect the results.
So
what? First of all, so you're getting a reversal because of excessive sentencing. And you're saying, well, if it gets appealed and they win the appeal, that's how our system, that's not how our system is supposed to work. How our system is supposed to work is you're not supposed to be giving excessive sentences.
You've refused to answer questions before us, including my questions about January 6th on multiple occasions here in this committee, but the Inspector General is preparing a report. Are you in receipt of that report yet? He's promised to examine the role and activity of DOJ and its components in preparing for and responding to the events at the U.S. Capitol. Are you in receipt of that?
I'm not in receipt of any report. You'll have to ask the Inspector General.
Isn't it true that it will go to you before it's released for review?
I don't know about it will not go to me for review. The Inspector General is independent. I hope to see it before, but that's up to the Inspector General. Let me just remind you, I was not the Attorney General on January 6th.
Do we have your commitment to release that as soon as you see it?
The determination of the release of Inspector General reports is up to the Inspector General. We give them independence. Congress demands that we give them independence.
My time has expired, but we have your commitment not to slow down the release of that from the Inspector General.
Our Inspector General is a very independent person. There's no way I could stop him from doing what the law requires.
I yield back.
And I would certainly never do that.
Gentlemen.
So, there we have the current Attorney General, Merrick Garland, admitting that Jack Smith was not appointed by the president, what was not approved by Congress, was not confirmed by the Senate. But you have Negroes here on YouTube arguing with me that Donald Trump is going to get locked up because Jack Smith, who we just found out is a private citizen, brought charges against Donald Trump. One of which was for having classified documents. So let me make sure I understand this. It is perfectly legal for a president to declassify documents within his powers as a president, but you have a private citizen challenging that by bringing charges against him, and that private citizen was not appointed by the president and not approved by Congress. Am I the only one here that sees the ridiculousness of this? Press 1 if this sounds utterly ridiculous. And this is what Judge Joe Brown meant when he said that Jack Smith doesn't have any standing. Jack Smith will be lucky if he doesn't go to prison. And by the way, now that he has resigned ahead of the inauguration because he knows he's going to get fired, they have already, Trump's transition team has already told them that they need to keep every single record of what they did, how they investigated, all of that. So I don't know why he thinks resigning means he's going to be able to ride off into the sunset. No, absolutely not. Which brings me to Trump's pick for Attorney General, which that's actually the right way to do it. Trump nominates an Attorney General for his administration, and then Congress has to approve it, right? Or confirm it. Which brings us to the question that I'm asking in this live stream. Why are Democrats terrified of Matt Gaetz as Attorney General? I'll tell you why they're terrified of him. They're terrified of him because if he's confirmed as Attorney General, he's definitely going to pursue prosecution of individuals like Jack Smith that have abused their positions, whether those positions are legitimate or illegitimate. And he's going to go after every single person that has been engaging in lawfare these past 4 years. This is why they're scared of him. In fact, let me give you an example of why they're scared of Matt Gaetz. Here we go right here.
The gentleman from Florida.
My colleague says we've passed the strongest border bills in history. Well, guess what? Look at the border right now. We didn't use sufficient leverage in the debt limit or in any other thing to actually get results on the border. The border is a disaster, really something I don't think you're going to be campaigning on, that you fixed the border. Second, you said you streamlined regulations. What the gentleman from Louisiana doesn't tell you is that all of the regulatory reform he was just bragging about is waivable by the stroke of a pen of someone in the Biden White House. Do you really think you got anything for that? It's a total joke. And then finally, the welfare to work that the gentleman from Louisiana said we got. The welfare programs that they said that they streamlined with their welfare to work stuff, they're actually going to grow. Because while they did work requirements, they blew out those programs with expanded eligibility. I'm real glad you guys didn't put work requirements on Medicaid. It probably would have resulted in Medicaid expansion. And when it comes to how those raise money, I take no lecture on asking patriotic Americans to weigh in and contribute to this fight from those who would grovel and bend knee for the lobbyists and special interests who own our leadership, who have, oh, boo all you want, who have hollowed out this town and have borrowed against the future of our future generations. I'll be happy to fund my political operation through the work of hardworking Americans, $10 and $20 and $30 at a time, and you all keep showing up at the lobbyist fundraisers and see how that goes for you. I reserve.
That's why they don't like him. That's why they don't like him. And in addition to that, he actually has a crusade, because the same lawfare in which they engaged in to diminish and hopefully disqualify Donald Trump, they also did to him. They also did to him. But he's one of the ones that didn't buckle. No matter how much they threw at him, he stood his ground, held his position, and continued to scream from the rooftops what was going on. Shout out to Engine Joe. He said, how many Americans actually see these hearings? They don't highlight actual crimes and law abuses, but feed us bullshit all day, every day. The media are criminals too. Hearings like this should be live debated. Dems are scared of anyone that stands up to BS backbone. That is facts.
Here we go again. $100 boss up. Going down. Stack up and match up.
That is facts. That is pure facts. And you're right. Very few. And see, this is why it gets so annoying to me when people want to debate me about politics, because I actually watch these when they're on the floor of Congress or in the Senate or having a judicial committee. I actually watch them. I actually watch them to see what they're talking about. Most of the time it's bullshit. You feel me? Like watching a congressional hearing or a freaking committee, you know, it's like Denzel said on Training Day. He's sitting there with his paper, reading his paper. He said he knows that most of what's in the paper is bullshit, but it's entertaining. You feel me? And that's the way I feel about a lot of these hearings and a lot of these committees. A lot of it is bullshit, you know, but the benefit of watching them is you find out really quickly who's full of shit and who isn't. You find out really quickly who's about their business and who isn't. In fact, let's check this one out.
Number 4 is recognized for 5 minutes.
Attorney General, you've told us that it's a dangerous conspiracy theory to allege that the Department of Justice is communicating with these state and local prosecutions against Trump. You can clear it all up for us right now. Will the Department of Justice provide to the committee all documents, all correspondence between the department and Alvin Bragg's office and Fonnie Willis' office and Letitia James's office?
The offices you're referring to are independent offices of state.
I get that. I get that.
State.
The question is whether or not you will provide all of your documents.
And there's the BS right there. See, this is why I watch these. This is the main reason. Anybody can watch them. The cameras are always there. This is why I watch this. Right? It's just like in your locale. If you wanted to go down to your courthouse and sit in a courtroom, if it's open court, you can sit in there and you can watch the cases. You can watch the legal system at work. And it's the same thing with Congress and the Senate. You can watch them. You can watch what they're talking about. You can watch them when they vote on shit. You can do all of that. Most people don't. What most people do is they sit around and they wait until there's a presidential election, and then all of a sudden they have a damn opinion, right? But just like in this instance, Matt Gaetz is actually going in on Merrick Garland, asking him a very simple question. If you're saying that the DOJ did not work in tandem with these state actors like Fonnie Willis, Letitia James, and the other one, I can't remember the other one. If you're saying you didn't work with them and this wasn't a coordinated attempt to try to use lawfare to disqualify Donald Trump, then I tell you what, send us all of the correspondence that you have between you and those state offices. And what's the first thing that Merrick Garland does? He starts filibustering. Instead of just saying yes. If you don't have anything to hide, why are you not willing to hand over those correspondence? But see, these Negroes that get up here and tell me that Matt Gaetz is full of it and Merrick Garland is on the up and up. If that's the case, then why is this going on? Let's play it again.
Number 4 is recognized for 5 minutes.
Attorney General, you've told us that it's a dangerous conspiracy theory to allege that the Department of Justice is communicating with these state and local prosecutions against Trump. You can clear it all up for us right now. Will the Department of Justice provide to the committee all documents, all correspondence between the department and Alvin Bragg's office and Fani Willis's office and Letitia James's office?
The offices you're referring to are independent offices of state.
I get that. The question is whether or not you will provide all of your documents and correspondence. That's the question. I don't need a history lesson.
Well, I'm going to say again, we do not control those offices. They make their own decisions.
The question is whether you communicate with them, not whether you control them. Do you communicate with them, and will you provide those communications?
You make a request, we'll refer it to our Office of Legislative Affairs.
But see, here's the thing. You come in here and you lodge this attack that it's a conspiracy theory, that there is coordinated lawfare against Trump. And then when we say, fine, just give us the documents, give us the correspondence, and then if it's a conspiracy theory, that will be evident. But when you say, well, we'll take your request, and then we'll sort of work it through the DOJ's accommodation process, then you're actually advancing the very dangerous conspiracy theory that you're concerned about. Now, you were a judge, once nominated to the highest court in our country. When you were a judge, I'm just curious, did you ever make political donations to partisan candidates?
No.
No, and you didn't because that would create the potential appearance of impropriety.
I didn't because there's a federal rule barring federal judges from making contributions.
Right, but under that same theory of attacks on the judicial process, like, shouldn't someone be owed like a jury of their peers and a judge that's non-biased rather than getting a judge from your political opponent's donor file?
I'm well aware that you're not asking a hypothetical. You're asking me to comment on a jury verdict in another jurisdiction which has to be respected. I won't comment on it. That case is still ongoing.
You want to respect jurisdiction now? You want to respect jurisdiction now? Ain't that a crock? Were you respecting jurisdiction when you allegedly was in communication with Alvin Bragg in his office, Fani Willis in her office, Letitia James in her office? Because they certainly weren't respecting jurisdiction when they decided that they wanted to try and bring charges against Donald Trump, which should have fell into, with, I don't know if, Alvin Bragg's not a federal judge, is he? No, of course not. I don't think he is. I know Letitia James isn't a federal prosecutor. She's a state prosecutor. Fani Willis is a state prosecutor. They bring cases in their state. How do they have jurisdiction over a president? That doesn't make sense.
Mr. Attorney General, I hadn't asked you about the verdict yet. We were getting there. I was talking about the judge. And so let me ask you this question about your time as a judge. Was there ever a time when you were a judge when you had a family member who was personally profiting off of the notoriety of a case that was before your court?
I'm going to say again, it's very clear you're asking me to comment on a case in another jurisdiction.
No, wait, hold on, Mr. Attorney General. Did you ever have a family member profit off of the notoriety of any case that you sat over?
Say again, you're asking
yes or no?
You're asking me to comment on a case currently.
Well,
shout out to Nuck if you buck. He said you still got them Trump hoodies in XL Big bro, yeah. All you have to do is go to shopBinoNation.com. ShopBinoNation.com.
Seems you're
For
connecting the
another
dots,
point.
Mr. Attorney General. I'm just asking you as to a general principle, but you are aware that Judge Merchan's daughter was profiting off of this prosecution. You are aware that that creates the appearance of impropriety. You know the very reason there's a federal rule against judges giving donations is because it is the very attack on the judicial process that we're concerned about.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with anything you just said, but I'm not going to comment on it.
Okay, so you won't comment on it, Mr. Attorney General, but you had no problem dispatching Matthew Colangelo. Who's Matthew Colangelo?
That is false. I did not dispatch Matthew Colangelo.
Matthew
That's
Colangelo,
false.
Matthew
False.
Colangelo became the Assistant Attorney General at the very beginning of the Biden administration. Without having been Senate confirmed, goes and gets this senior role at the DOJ, and then after, I believe it's Gupta replaces Colangelo.
So here's another individual that they've appointed without the Senate confirming him. But it's the right. It's the Republicans this full of it, right? Here's another person appointed and not confirmed. And this is why they're scared of him. Because if Matt Gaetz is going at them like this, what do you think he's going to do as Attorney General? You think they don't know that?
Gupta replaces Colangelo. Colangelo makes this remarkable downstream career journey from the U.S. Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., and then pops up in Alvin Bragg's office to go get Trump. And you're saying that's just a career choice that was made that has nothing to do with the lawfare coordinated by the
Saying it's false. I did not dispatch Mr. Colangelo anywhere.
Well, do you know how he ended up there?
I assume he he applied for a job there and got the job.
But see, you know
I
what?
can tell you I had nothing to do with it.
Well, you might not have had anything to do with it, but we've got this contemporaneous evidence in Mr. Pomerantz's book. So Pomerantz writes this book, which I'm sure you're aware of, where he says, we put together the legal eagles to get Trump.
Woo!
We got all these folks together,
Woo!
and we assembled them for that purpose.
Woo!
And so when we on the Judiciary Committee think about attacks on the judicial process, our concern is that the facts and the law aren't being followed. A target is acquired, here Trump, and then you assemble the legal talent from DOJ, Mr. Pomerantz, and you bring everybody in to get him. And meanwhile, the judge is making money on it. The judge is making money on it, or the judge's family's making money on it for stuff that you yourself wouldn't do. You know, no one's going to buy this. No one's going to believe it. It's going to create great disruption. And I am saddened by it because, like you, I have given my life to the law. I care deeply about the law, and I think that the lawfare we've seen against President Trump will do great damage well beyond our time in public service. I see my time's expired. I yield back.
This is why. This right here is why they are worried about him, right? In addition to that, I came across this article on Politico, right? Trump's return. Where's the date for this article? So this is on November 10th of this year. Trump's return has some in U.S. Department heading for the exits. So just the idea of Trump being in office, just the idea of Matt Gaetz becoming Attorney General has the swamp creatures bouncing, resigning, leaving. Why would they be leaving? They haven't done anything wrong. Trump blames DOJ for much of his torment over the past 4 years. Lawyers there fear what's next. Right? Now, here's another interesting article that I came across. Let's see if I can find it. This one comes from Newsweek. This one right here comes from Newsweek. Check out this heading. John Bolton urges FBI to probe Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Gaetz, serious threat. So just because Donald Trump has appointed Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard, John Bolton is urging the FBI to investigate them. John Bolton has argued Representative Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump's nominees for Attorney General and Director of National Intelligence, respectively, should undergo full field FBI investigations before their Senate confirmation hearings take place. The comments were made by Bolton, who served as Trump's national security advisor during his first term, but has since become a trenchant critic, in an interview with News Nation's The Hill hours after the appointments were announced. On Wednesday, Trump revealed he had selected Florida Representative Gaetz and Gabbard, formerly a Democrat House Representative for Hawaii, as his candidates to be Attorney General and National Intelligence Director. From 2013 to 2016, Gabbard served as vice chair of the Democratic National Committee before running for the party's presidential nomination in 2020, and she officially joined the Republican Party in October. Speaking about Gabbard on News Nation, Bolton said, "I don't think either she or Matt Gaetz ought to have a confirmation hearing until they have both had full field FBI investigations." So here we go again. Here we go again with them utilizing the resources of the government to try to stop the confirmation of Trump's appointees because they fear retribution. And then I think the Chinese would say maybe they are serious. Referring to Gabbard, specifically Bolton added, given the Russian propaganda, here we go with Russia, Russia, Russia again. I see the Russian collusion theory has reared its ugly head again now that Trump is getting ready to be back in office again. Given the Russian propaganda that she has espoused over the past period of time, I think she's a serious threat to our national security. Yeah, but Joe Biden allowing a freaking Chinese balloon to float over America for an extended period of time, that wasn't a national security threat, right? Bolton was asked what message he thought Trump was sending to Beijing with the appointments by anchor Blake Berman. He replied, with his announcement of Tulsi Gabbard to the Director of National Intelligence, he's sending a signal that we have lost our mind when it comes to collecting intelligence. Up until a few hours ago, I would have said that was the worst cabinet appointment in recent American history. Of course, since Matt Gaetz' nomination, he clearly has taken the lead on that score. Bolton claimed that after the assassination attempt of Qasem Soleimani, a commander in Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard Corps, on Trump's orders in January 2020, Gabbard was said she was concerned about the illegal and unconstitutional act of war, he added. So that's the kind of person that we we're going to put in charge of our overall intelligence community? When contacted by Newsweek, the FBI declined to comment. Newsweek also messaged Representative Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard for comment on Thursday via email outside of regular office hours. Speaking to Newsweek on October, Bolton said Trump was an aberration within the Republican Party and suggested he would write in a former politician as a protest at the November 5th presidential election. He said, maybe Ronald Reagan, maybe I should vote for the first presidential candidate I ever worked for, which was Barry Goldwater. These people have lost their minds, bro. And they think we're not smart enough to see what they're trying to do. If you're paying attention, what you'll notice is that they have a problem with all of his nominations for a very specific reason. First of all, Tulsi Gabbard has been, the subject of attacks, right? Investigations. I think they even put her on a no-fly list because she didn't agree with the left's politics, right? Matt Gaetz has been the subject of something similar to that, right? Then you have Elon Musk, who is kind of an outsider, but he doesn't agree with what the left is doing. You have Vivek Ramaswamy, who also doesn't agree with what the left is doing. You have RFK Jr., who was silenced and has been accused of being a nutcase and all types of other things. So what I'm putting together is they are mad that Trump isn't picking the typical people that they want him to pick the way he did the first time. See, the first time he didn't know who to pick. He took their recommendations. And so when he took their recommendations, those individuals undermined his presidency. For the entire time he was president, they undermined him. And once he finally realized he was being undermined, this is when he started firing people. So what the mainstream media decided to do is to take that and pretend as if he was unhinged and losing his mind because he fired those individuals, right? When the real reason he fired them is because he finally came to the realization that they were undermining him. So, learning from his mistakes, this time he's picking people that he know aligns with what he's trying to do, that align with his agenda, instead of picking those individuals that would obviously undermine his presidency again, right? So this is what's going on. They've even went so far as to suggest that they create a shadow cabinet. Basically, to undermine Donald Trump's cabinet. And I'm sitting back looking at all of this, and I'm really trying to figure out, why isn't any of this considered illegal? Why isn't anyone saying threat to democracy? Why isn't anyone saying, hey, you can't undermine a president like that? What is going on right now? Could you imagine them doing this when Joe Biden got elected? Could you imagine them doing this when Barack Obama got elected? We certainly couldn't imagine them doing this when either of the Bushes got elected. They've even went so far, AOC went so far as to sit on MSNBC with Joy Reid and said that Tulsi Gabbard is pro-war, and so is Donald Trump. How would Donald Trump be pro-war if there was no wars during his entire presidency? And you know what's even more hilarious about this? They're sitting on the news talking about, they're sitting on that platform talking about Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump being pro-war. Meanwhile, the candidate that they were pushing, Kamala Harris, was bragging about her endorsements from Dick and Liz Cheney, two of the biggest war hawks to ever exist in recent political history. It makes absolutely no sense. I sit back and I watch it, and I'm like, wow, they really think that the American public is stupid. They really think the American public is stupid. You got a shining endorsement from Dick Cheney. But you're accusing Trump and Gabbard of being war hawks? Yo, the level of foolishness, it's amazing. It is amazing. It is amazing to watch it. Shout out to Paul. Appreciate you, fam. Shout out to Spencer. Spencer dropping another 50, making him the sponsor of the show.
$50 boss up. Stack up and match up.
I'm just sitting back watching the circus. I'm watching the circus. And I'm like, yo, the one thing that stands out to me more than anything is I am amazed at how freely and how recklessly they talk about an incoming president. But I don't know why I'm surprised. I shouldn't be surprised because they did this before. You can sit back and literally, quite literally see a stark contrast between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden was literally showing mental decline, which means you should have questioned everything that he did, but they never did. They never questioned anything that Joe Biden did, no matter how messed up, no matter how incompetent. They still haven't held anybody accountable for that Afghanistan pullout. With Joe Biden, they give him a wide berth to pretty much do whatever he feels like doing, and the mainstream media sits up there and praises him in spite of the mistakes, the constant mistakes that he was making. Meanwhile, Donald Trump gets elected and they want to appoint a special prosecutor to go after him because they heard he ripped a tag off of a mattress back in the 80s. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And quite frankly, I'm going to keep it real with you. Donald Trump has to be able to appoint the people that he's trying to appoint. Because if he doesn't, none of this is ever going to get fixed. None of it is ever going to get fixed. Like, we can sit back and look at why they don't want these appointments. But anyway, I've been on here long enough. Shout out to everybody that came through and kicked it with me. I appreciate everybody that contributed to the show. I appreciate the sponsors of the show. Oh, my bad. We had another $100 sponsor. Hold on. Let me put that on the board as well. We had Eugene as well that dropped 100. No, Engine Joe. My bad. Shout out to Spencer and Engine Joe. I appreciate you guys for being sponsors of the show. Shout out to everybody that came through. Yo, make sure you guys go check out my book, The Angryman Standard. It's available on Amazon. All you have to do is type The Angryman Standard in the search bar, and it will come up. It's available in paperback and hardcover. If you want to check out the hoodies or any of the merchandise, all you have to do is click the link on the screen, or you can go to shopBinoNation.com. Again, that's shopBinoNation.com. Other than that, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Tomorrow, we'll try to do the show a little earlier. But other than that, I'm going to holler at you guys later. Deuces.